Hey, it's State of State. We got your Nittany Lion update. It's a football discussion with Tom and Justin, so kick back and press play.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to State of State, a Penn State football show presented by FanDuel. Make every moment more. I'm Tom Hannafin. He's Justin King. Penn State has lost 3 in a row tonight, falling by a score of 22-21 to Northwestern at home. The unthinkable has happened, and that was what we already thought had occurred last week. The loss to UCLA. At this point, how does James Franklin have his job on Monday?
We had some long meetings over the next couple of days in the administration and how things move forward. But I don't know if they make that move in the middle of the season, just how Penn State operates. And again, the buyout, the business is the business from that standpoint.
Yeah.
To stick on the game, man, it's just disappointing. Really disappointing that, again, you come out on homecoming and kind of lose the Northwestern in that fashion. That's kind of lost for words.
You come into this game favored by 21.5, according to our friends at FanDuel. The over-under was 47.5. Penn State's not covered the spread once this season. A lot of that stuff, unfortunately, gets thrown out the window. But this is, again, an effort where the offense looks painful to watch. And you saw more of an emphasis on Kaytron Allen in this game, but you still saw the offense sticking to its guns and its identity, at least as we know it, of you're going to trade in and out with Nick Singleton on select series and give him his opportunities. And to his credit, he had his flashes today, obviously scored a touchdown, and I think was valuable for Penn State, but still you saw a lot more of Kaytron Allen. Unbelievably, against Northwestern, you can't seem to get anything going offensively through the air. Drew Allar has a really difficult day throwing the football, some his fault, some not his fault. And then tragically, Drew Allar gets injured towards the end of the game with about 4 minutes left. Ethan Grunkemeyer, cold off the bench, is asked to attempt to convert a 4th and 3, takes a hell of a shot, and then Northwestern can just salt it away after that. I don't know. Did you feel like you saw improvement from the UCLA game?
I think that's the most disappointing part, is that it doesn't seem like there was ever like a jolt of the past to like kind of wake everybody back up after it happened. It seems like they look a little bit more confused. You know what I mean? Because like just from a talent standpoint, I mean, we have more talent than Northwestern. It's just like we let Northwestern even believe that they could play with us. I mean, they were playing physical, and it just so happens that maybe it's just coincidence, but like critical moments when it just seems like the quarterback's just taking these catastrophic hits. Like, all right, 4th and 1. Boom. Like, I know that wasn't like when Grunkemeyer got in. I'm sure that wasn't a design run play. Like, so that's like, that showed his lack of, gameplay. Lack of experience of getting in the game. Like, he sees the guys drop back. It's 4th and 3. He's trying to take off, and they converge, form tackle with violence, and it's just, doesn't look great. Say it kindly.
Just to go to some of the stats here, not that that's really going to make anything better for everybody that's watching this and will listen to this. Drew Allar finishes the game 13-20, 137 yards passing, an interception on the first offensive series of the game, I believe, for Penn State. 65% completion percentage. Drew Allar, 6 carries for 25 yards and a rushing touchdown. Kaytron Allen, 16 carries, 90 yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 5.6 yards per carry. So they stuck with the QB run game a little bit, but mostly that was him running for his life, him being Drew Allar. Nick Singleton, 7 carries for 20 yards and a touchdown, averaged 2.9 yards per carry. You know what really annoyed me was that the new wrinkle we saw from the offense coming out of the UCLA game, when people like myself and plenty others were like, hey, I'd be curious to see about Kobe Howard and Tyser Denmark, these guys who were all this buzz during camp. You know what the new wrinkle was? Let's get Liam Clifford involved more. That's the gadget. No, that was the gadget answer. You could see some of the attempts to go for gadget plays with Liam Clifford, even potentially as a potential passer. There were a couple instances there where Cole Nicky tried to work that in there. There was nothing Northwestern was shocked by defensively. was incredible.
Not shocked at all. And I don't know. At one point, I mean, it seems I'm not sure, man. Because at one point I thought we had like more of a gimmicky offense, but then it's like it seems like the defense has seems like the defense had a bead on exactly what was going on. Then, you know, for me, I've seen success in football a lot of times with the most simplistic approaches. And I think those are the most beautiful approaches because it kind of leans on the talent. It leans on the individual one-on-one matchup and like crafting those in a specific way to where like you typically lean on the guy that's better. Somewhere in this game of football where it became so much X's and O's and systems, like I think we lean away from it to try to make sure systems work, and then and then it looks all messed up. But like, because like they weren't doing anything difficult. Nope. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like we couldn't figure out how to stop them or make a mistake. So I don't like to get into the strategy and like all the play calling and things. It's just like, yo, you have to make plays and you have to convert on third down. You have to get first downs. You have to make turnovers. Like you have to do the simple things in football that are predictors of success. And we're not doing that even against mediocre teams or bad teams.
Credit to Devontae Ross, 7 catches, 115 yards receiving on 7 targets, had himself a good game on that front. But, you know, outside of that, 2 catches for Singleton, 2 for Trebor Pena, who was supposed to be the crown jewel of this wide receiver transfer portal class. Relatively MIA. Kyron Hudson with a drop at one point in this game. It's not listed on the stat sheet, but he did drop that pass on the sideline. 1 catch for 10 yards. Katron Allen, 1 catch for 1 yard. Just third down, Penn State was 6 of 11, 1 of 2 on 4th down. I mean, just there's a lot wrong with this. Maddie here in the comments section, seems like Big Ten defenses have figured this Andy Kotelnicki stuff out. Felt like that last season, about halfway through the season, once there was enough tape. The bells and whistles and gadgets, I talked about it last season, I'll talk about it again this year, is that it's built to protect an inferior roster from more talented rosters. It works for Buffalo. It works for Kansas in their leagues. At the Big Ten level, you're either bigger, stronger, faster, or you're not. And Penn State, there were certain elements of the team last year offensively, Tyler Warren being a perfect example, bigger, stronger, faster than just about everybody on the field that he went up against, right? You don't have a guy like that this year at any position. So just to try and go with window dressing and smoke and mirrors and, you know, trying to throw off defensive assignments, like the secret's out.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm kind of speechless. Like my man Josh here at the bottom says, like I'm speechless a little because I just don't know what else to say. Besides, like you got to do the basic things right to win. You know what I mean? And like, and I don't know. You start to question was the evaluation on paper wrong from the beginning? Do you know what I mean? Because like if like that's more of where my brain starts to lean to, because like I don't think this is like poor coaching or guys not being ready after 12 years of evidence of one thing, right? And then now all of a sudden guys are just not involved, not enthusiastic to play, not embodying the 4 core values that Penn State has always been about, whether it's hard work, sacrifice, positive attitude, and forget the 4th one, but whatever that case may be, that was always like a firm thread line. Like you never seen lackluster efforts in games against lesser opponents. And like, I don't know, maybe it's the irony of something that we've taken for granted as a Penn State staff, where it's like, hey, we just been focused on the big ones. And it's like, hey, well, you should have focused on the small ones. Like, I appreciate the small wins that we were getting before, because losing to these teams suck. It sucks. Like it doesn't feel good. And it's hard to even talk about because it shouldn't happen.
Melinda here in the comments section, we're all kind of waiting to hear more about Drew Allar. I would be shocked if James Franklin had information very quickly on what appeared to be a left ankle injury. So we'll see if there's any comments from James Franklin in his post-game press conference, but that might be something we have to wait a few days on to get a real evaluation with Drew Allar. So we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, I've been very critical of Drew Allar. He struggled at points and he struggled in this game. He had his high points in this game, but to see your number one quarterback, your starting quarterback for the last 3 years go down, it's a huge blow to your offense, huge blow to your team, period. You could feel it. It was palpable. Maddie here in the comments section, Justin asking for your honest thoughts. And I kind of kicked off the show saying, I think James Franklin should be fired as of Monday or tomorrow morning. There's 56 million reasons why it won't happen. And I still think he has the confidence of Dr. Neely Vendiputi and athletic director Pat Kraft. But this is inexcusable. This is bullshit. If this team was supposed to contend for the national championship this year and even win the national championship, the loss to Oregon, you can understand. That was a hell of a hard-fought game. Yeah, there are a lot of issues with it. But then you blow it against UCLA, which all of a sudden has second life, apparently. And then you lose to what is absolutely an inferior Northwestern team at home when you had the wake-up call on top of a wake-up call after Oregon and UCLA. This is bullshit. And if this is a situation where tomorrow it's announced that Andy Kotelnicki's fired, it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't. It really doesn't. So, Justin, I don't know if you have anything to add on that.
I mean, is it time to make a change in Happy Valley? That's hard to say after the like just a 3-game stretch, right? Like, because I think it's been a time period where we've been upset about not winning the big game. And then there's like a thing of like, okay, who are we as a university? What is our standard that we're going after? So there is a level of me, like I'm not real big on like the rushing of firing coaches. I believe in making adjustments internally and making sure that things are right or evaluating from that standpoint. But there is something to be said about the fast downturn of how this season has gone from the expectations going in when it was like, okay, we're talking about national championship. We're talking about, doing something that we never done before. We got all the collective of talent that came back, whether it was a sales job that the talent was what it was, and it really wasn't at that level to begin with. But like all those different components are variables that we don't necessarily know. But like, so from his track record, if it's like, all right, a 3-week span that gets him fired, I don't think that's necessarily a common thing. But I think there has to be real answers like figured out to see like, hey, what's going on right now in this little, in this time period. Because I just don't think even from Penn State's brand, from an administration standpoint, they're not a type of school that fires a coach in the middle of the season. Those are schools that look like they're knee-jerking. They don't have an identity of who they are. They're trying to get out of that second and third tier. Those are the teams that fire coaches in the middle of the season. I don't think Penn State is that type of school to do that with, even though the past 3 weeks have been horrific.
State of State is a proud supporter of Blue White Outfitters. Blue White Outfitters was created as a retail shop meant to highlight the confidence, competitiveness, and fearlessness of the elite athletes found throughout the history of Penn State University. Check out their Lockdown U and Lawn Boys merchandise today. All sales from Blue White Outfitters directly benefit Penn State student athletes. Also, official State of State merchandise is available now. Support the show and grab State of State t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. Visit www.bluewhiteoutfitters.com today. State of State, a Penn State football show, is presented by Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. Data brokers make a profit off your data. Your data is a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. But now you can protect your privacy with Delete Me. What do data brokers do? Your name, contact info, social security number, home address, even information about your family members could all be compiled by data brokers and sold online. I understand what it means to have an active and online presence, so privacy is extremely important to me. Have you ever been a victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing? If you haven't, you probably know someone who has. Delete Me can help. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for our listeners and viewers. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/pro and use the promo code PRO at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/pro and enter code PRO at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/pro, code PRO. Delete Me. Your personal data is yours again.
I agree. There's the real world where they won't, and then there's the honest world in which they should. Josh here in the comments section, James Franklin has done a great job of rebuilding Penn State football's culture. He absolutely has, 100%. But I don't think anybody can argue that point. From what he inherited after the Sandusky scandal sanctions, his program was nearly dead. Really had some horrible things to overcome in a variety of ways. And the work that James Franklin and his staff have done to get the team to where it is now is incredible. It's going to be looked back on favorably by history. But then you look at the way that this has just gone, and it's just, how do you let this happen? And it's either something is wrong at the bedrock of this team from the evaluation standpoint that you said, Justin, in terms of the way players are evaluated. And I think the world of Kenny Sanders and the kennel and the job those guys do, I really do. But there's something from an analytics standpoint where it's just like, it feels like watching this offense is trying to do some sort of rocket science every time they go out there, as opposed to just being, as I mentioned, bigger, stronger, faster, play football and beat the snot out of the guy in front of you. And every single time it just feels like trying to be heady and oh, we're going to be smarter than people. We're going to be a percentage point and a fraction point here. It's like, to just get the players that are better than the guys across from you. It should be real simple in that respect. Mike here with a comment. I'm struggling blaming the offensive coordinator when every offensive coordinator under Franklin has had no success. I think that's an outstanding point to bring up. And Justin, you have firsthand experience. The only offensive coordinator that has worked under James Franklin, Joe Moorhead. Now, granted, he had Saquon freaking Barkley and maybe the best quarterback of the last 25 years in Penn State football in Trace McSorley. But I think we can all agree Trace McSorley was no Peyton Manning or Trevor Lawrence at the college level or Tom Brady at the NFL level. Like, he got a lot out of a little in terms of his skill set. He's a hell of a player, but like, you had Saquon Barkley, a good supporting cast, and Joe Moorhead told James Franklin to F off more often than not. And you saw results. And every offensive coordinator, it's been the same result. Where is that coming from?
I mean, again, I think it's more of the acquisition of those coordinators, because like those coordinators came in and did exactly what they did at their previous schools. You know what I mean? So whether it's like identifying guys that fit within the Penn State culture, Penn State's personnel, but you're right. I would add Ricky Ronnie into another coordinator that it was successful underneath James, but they had, again, that working trust of working together. He was his former GA, but yeah, Joe Moorhead and Ricky Ronnie, the two offensive coordinators that have seen success. But I think it is a level of these other guys coming in and being at Penn State. Maybe it's not their personnel or more system heavy guys to where they need more time to get it going. And we don't have that type of time at Penn State to get it going, or maybe it doesn't mesh well with James's offensive philosophy and how it needs to then be filtered through what they got going on. I'm not necessarily sure, but over the past 3 to 4 years, the offense has not operated well. When I worked there, I mean, there were some cases where we had offensive firepower. We had, like you said, the Saquons, we had Jahan, we had KJ, we had big explosive plays. And even back then, the plays weren't, like you said, rocket science. When it comes down to play calling is more about it's more about personality and charisma from that standpoint. Like, what am I willing to put out there and try at these different moments when the time, like when it's crunch time or when it's loose, but it's more of a psychological type of affair than it is like the X's and O's and, the mad scientist type of thing, because you have to be loose to call plays. So I think there's a little bit of that when you talk about the personalities amongst the offensive coordinators that come in and then the players that they have to deal with. But whatever that is, it needs to be figured out, because like it hasn't been clicking the past 3 years.
Just a couple points here on the defense because like it's hard to do an autopsy of what just happened now against Northwestern and what's happened the last 3 weeks. Hats off to Zakee Wheatley, man. Played his butt off in this game. Zane Durant, I thought, also played his butt off. Defensively, the interior of this defense is dreadful against the run. And that's not a scheme thing. They're beating you, period. This is one of the worst linebacking cores I think I've ever seen at Penn State. And I've said it before, if it weren't for Amari Campbell transferring from UNC in, what was it, April or May, this linebacking core would be screwed. It is unbelievable how poor it is, how poor the tackling is on the defensive side of the ball. And one question I have for you, because I saw it consistently in this game, I saw it consistently with UCLA and Oregon, it was the quick passing game, right? And I continue to see defensive backs just giving up the free inside release. And Northwestern was saying, great, we'll take that. That's fine. And that killed Penn State for much of this game. Wilde, 7 catches for 94 yards and a touchdown on 8 targets. And meanwhile, Komolafe had 19 carries for 72 yards, a touchdown, averaged about 4 yards per carry. Hyman, 13 for 65. He averaged 5. I mean, they had a decent day running the football. Their overall total was 119 for 2.8. So it doesn't look that great in totality, but their 2 primary rushers were gashing Penn State up the middle. And then you're just giving a free inside release just about every single time. So what's the thought process there from a defensive back standpoint? Because I saw defensive backs giving way too much cushion to guys that they were better than, and then giving free inside releases the entire game.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's up with that. Inside releases or just free releases is never a level of football. I mean, again, sometimes we get into the coaching and execution. It's like, guys, I don't know if that's a play call from Coach Knowles where it's like, hey, we're funneling guys inside, but you have to make sure you get hands on and you shuffle 45 degrees and stay on top shoulder and like do it a certain type of way. So I'm not necessarily sure, but the news just came in. Indiana beat Oregon here.
You're kidding.
Yes. So yeah, so that makes it even more a little painful, but I'm not necessarily sure why those guys were taking off free releases and diving inside and these guys weren't shuffling in to stay on top, but it cost us. I mean, even when your best corner gets beat on a post corner route like that, that's just demoralizing for a coordinator to even call the right call. It's like, again, when I speak of matchups on paper, that I was like, Ford is supposed to win that matchup every time. You know what I mean? So like, I'm not necessarily sure if it's like a lack of discipline or just a lack of understanding or guys are just starting to protect themselves. But again, it doesn't look good.
To the point you just said, Indiana upset Oregon in Eugene 30-20. That is a tremendous surprise. A lot of emotions and a lot of feelings here in the post game. Ben, next week we go to Iowa. I hope that's a loss. Then Ohio State and Indiana. That's likely to be 6 straight L's for a team that was supposed to take the conference. Unacceptable. I'm not hoping for Penn State to lose any games, but you do have to consider the future here for Penn State football. This is unacceptable. I do agree with that. You just got beat 3 weeks in a row by one team that you should have. At least we thought we should have. We're going to have to see what Oregon looks like after this. UCLA seems to be catching fire. This Northwestern team, just you can look at what's on the field and Penn State should have better personnel than that. And yeah, to the point that Ben was attempting to make, next week you're playing at Iowa at night, and that is a team that can beat you. And that was before this game against Northwestern, Justin. I don't know how you feel about this, but based on what I've seen from Iowa so far, and they're playing Wisconsin right now, they just got underway in Madison. This is an Iowa team that can put some points on people, and at Kinnick at night, Penn State fans have seen it before. It is a nightmare, and this just seems like a buzzsaw. And oh, by the way, we don't know the status of Drew Allar for that game. So could Ethan Grunkemeyer be making his very first start for Penn State football on the road at night at Iowa? Is it Jackson Smolik? Because that was something we even discussed in the offseason, Justin. We don't know who the real true number 2 quarterback is. Grunkemeyer stepped in today, but we always heard, it could be Smolik one week, could be Grunkemeyer the next week. Like this, just when you thought this would level out, something new happens.
Yeah, time will tell.
We are going to do our best to attempt to move forward and continue to process everything that has happened with this Penn State football team in 2025, because it was said on the Fox broadcast by the studio guys, Penn State potentially the most disappointing team in college football in 2025. Might be hard to argue at this point. Final score, Penn State falls to Northwestern by a score of 22-21. Penn State is now 3-3 on the season. Next week, they'll be at Iowa at night. Thank you for joining us here on State of State, a Penn State football show presented by FanDuel.
Thank you all so much for joining us. This episode and our entire library of shows is available now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please like, comment, subscribe, rate us, and turn on notifications. Follow us on social media at State of State Pod. Comment on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so already, you can become a member of our YouTube channel. For just 99 cents a month, you can get all upcoming episodes of State of State, plus our entire members-only playlist, ad-free, commercial-free. Hit the join button on our homepage or follow the link in the description of this podcast. State of State is presented by FanDuel.